And that's all of Tao Te Ching by Sun Tzu. I'll go ahead and read the notes too. I haven't read them. I'm sure it's the author's interpretation notes, so they could be pretty interesting. But I hope you guys have learned something. The Tao's not really about learning anything. Like, as you probably noticed, it's about unlearning and just remembering who you are as a human being and a soul, like that has existed in this space and time for however long you had, many years and many more years to come. And what matters and what's important is what is inside of us and our own souls and our own lives and our families and our friends, and how we choose to spend that time, and the people we choose to love and share everything it is to be a human with. That's short, itty bitty first words that come to my head about what I get from the Tao Te Ching. I've read it a few times, listened to it a few times. There's a couple different versions out there of it, but for the most part, they're all pretty similar. All right, I'll go ahead and read the notes. Chapter 1. Describing the indescribable, teaching the unteachable, pointing the way to the way. What does Lao-Tzu think he is doing here? It can't be done. No way. Hence, Po Chu, poet and stand-up comedian, wrote, "He who talks doesn't know. He who knows doesn't talk." That is what Lao-Tzu told us in a book of 5,000 words. If he was the one who knew, how could he have been such a blabbermouth? That's the problem with spiritual teachers. They have to be blabbermouths, but their words are, in the traditional Buddhist metaphor, fingers pointing at the moon. If you watch the finger, you can't see the moon. How meticulous the great masters had to be. A monk asked Lao-Tzu, "Why do you teach? Mind is Buddha?" Lao-Tzu said, "To stop a baby from crying." The monk said, "When the crying has stopped, what then?" Lao-Tzu said, "Then I teach. Not mind, not Buddha." The monk said, "How about someone who isn't attached to either?" Lao-Tzu said, "I would tell him, not beings." The monk said, "And what if you met a man unattached to all things? What would you tell him?" Lao-Tzu said, "I would just let him experience the great Tao." In fact, the truth is right before our eyes, right under our noses, so simple that every child understands it, and yet, as Bonke said, the farther you enter into it, the deeper it is. Where is the way to the way? What a question. Still, for complicated minds, drastic measures are needed. Lao-Tzu's book was written as a response out of grandmotherly kindness, according to the oldest biography. Lao-Tzu lived for a long time in the country of Chou, but seeing its decline, he departed. When he reached the frontier, the guard said, "Since you are going away, sir, could you write a book to teach me the art of living?" Thereupon, Lao-Tzu wrote his book about the Tao and departed. This is legend, but it is an accurate description of the way in which true teaching happens. He who knows doesn't talk, but words are no hindrance for him. He uses them as he would use gardening tools. When someone asks, he answers. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao, the text reads. The Tao that can be Taoed, one meaning of Tao being to express, is not the eternal Tao. Other possible renderings. The way that it can be weighed is not the eternal way. The force that can be forced is not the eternal force. You realize the mystery. Infinitely marvelous, yet as ordinary as sunlight. Impossible to know, yet as easy as touching your nose when you wash your face. The source is called darkness. Because none of our senses can perceive it, it is also called light. Because the less we obstruct it, the more radiant we are. The gateway to all understanding. In order to understand, we have to remain in the darkness of not knowing. Notes on Chapter 2. Acts without doing anything. Her actions are appropriate responses. Thus they are effortless. She embodies compassion, yet she doesn't try to be compassionate. She doesn't struggle to make money, yet she enjoys spending it when it comes to her. She goes her own way, yet she accepts help gratefully and has no pride in walking alone. She is not elated by praise, not discouraged by neglect. She doesn't even a moment's thought to right or wrong. She never has to make a decision. Decisions arise by themselves. She is like an actress who loves her role. The Tao is writing the script. Teaches without saying anything. The way she buys oranges or ties her shoelaces is a teaching. Her face is more eloquent than any scripture could be. That is why it lasts forever. Not in time and space, but in quality. Notes for Chapter 3. Emptying people's minds. He empties them of concepts, judgments, and desires. Thus they can return to a state of childlike simplicity. Filling their cores. He fills them with the sense of their original identity. Thus they can return to a state of joy. Weakening their ambition. When they have no false self to nourish or defend, they find that greed, hatred, and arrogance vanish by themselves. Toughening their resolve. Their innermost intention, they develop enough self-reliance to give up the idea of self. Just real quick, it seems like they're doing like basic lines from the Tao Te Ching and then giving their own interpretation or a different version of how it could be thought of or said or explained to better understand the concept of the saying. So when I take a second to pause at the beginning and say like this one, I'll give you an example. Just so you keep up with what I'm saying, because these notes are going to be like this for every chapter, it seems like, so you can follow along and understand. Sorry, go back. Alright, notes for Chapter 4. Following Chen Ku Ying. I have deleted the second stanza of the Chinese text, for which it seems to be an interpolation from Chapter 56. This is the saying. It is older than God. This is the interpretation. There is no God when there is nothing but God. The saying. The Tao doesn't take sides. Interpretation. It gives birth to both good and evil. Literally, heaven and earth are impartial. They treat all things like straw dogs, as the master treats all people like straw dogs. Straw dogs were ritual objects, venerated before the ceremony, but afterward abandoned and trampled underfoot. The point here is not that the Tao is cruel to things, nor that the master is ruthless with people, but that they are impartial. The master sees all beings arising from the same source, working out their karma, usually with great suffering, and returning to the source. And since people are in constant flux, she understands that at any moment they are capable of the most astonishing spiritual transformations. Why should she pen them motionless with a judgment of good or bad? Again, that was the explanation for the line from the Tao. The Tao does not take any sides. It gives birth to both good and evil. Chapter 6 notes. The first stanza is literally, the spirit of the valley never dies. It is called the mysterious female. The gate of the mysterious female is the root of heaven and earth. Chu Sai said, the female is one who receives something, and with it creates. This creative principle is the most marvelous thing in the universe. Chapter 7 notes. The Tao is infinite, eternal. Here is everywhere. Any time is now. Line. The master stays behind. That is why she is ahead. Explanation. She is like a turtle. Wherever she is home. Actually, she is neither behind nor ahead, but exactly even with all things. Line. She is detached. Explanation. Bunin said, it is easy to keep things at a distance. It is hard to be naturally beyond them. Detachment results in clarity. Clarity expresses itself in love. Her heart is like a mirror, which reflects all faces, without judgment, exactly as they are. Chapter 8 notes. Line. The supreme good is like water. Explanation. I asked my friend and teacher Emily Conrad, founder of Continuum, to comment on this verse. Again, the verse. The supreme good is like water. She said, water is the source of all life, life's matrix and fecundity. It overflows into everything. It moves everywhere. We are fundamentally water, muscled water. And the idea that we ever leave the amniotic fluid is a misconception. The amniotic fluid is the state of total nourishment and unconditional love. It is always present for us and contains everything we could possibly want. In fact, we are that fluid of love. Chapter 9 note. Line. Do your work, then step back. Explanation. When you do your work wholeheartedly, you are glad to let it go, just as a parent lets a child go into its own life. Chapter 10 notes. Line. Can you let your body become? Explanation. Literally, can you concentrate your chi, vital energies, until it becomes? Line. Supple as a newborn child's. Explanation. Emily Conrad Dawes comment, there is no self-consciousness in the newborn child. Later on, the mind wanders into self-images, starts to think, should I do this? Is this movement right? And loses the impediency of the movement. As self-consciousness develops, the muscles become less supple, less like the world, but the young child is pure fluidity. It isn't aware of any separation, so all its movements are spontaneous and alive and whole and perfect. If an adult body becomes truly supple, though, there is a quality to its movement that the child's doesn't have, a texture of experience, a fourth dimension of time. When we watch a 70-year-old hand move, we feel, yes, that hand has lived. All the bodies it has touched, all the weights it has lifted, all the heads it has cradled are present in its movement. It is resonant with experience. The fingers curve with a sense of having been there, whereas in a child's hand there is a sense of just arriving. The child's movement is pristine and innocent and delightful, but a truly supple adult movement is awesome because all life is included in it. Line. Until you see nothing but the light. Explanation. That is, until your heart is at peace. The great modern Indian sage Ramanan Maharshi said, there is no greater mystery than this, that we keep seeking reality, though in fact we are reality. We think that there is something hiding our reality, and that this must be destroyed before reality is gained. How ridiculous! A day will dawn when you will laugh at your past efforts. That which will be on the day you laugh is also here and now. Line. Can you love people and lead them without imposing your will? Explanation. Emily Conrad's comment. The more supple your body is, the less dictatorial you'll be. The military stance is the most invasive stance that you can possibly take. Its opposite, the boneless, wishy-washy posture of someone who doesn't stand for anything, is just as unhealthy. Suppleness is really fluidity. It transcends strength and weakness. When your body is supple, it feels like there's no barrier in you. You can flow in any direction. Your movement is a complete expression of yourself. Line. By letting events take their course. Explanation. Literally, by becoming the female. The Ho Shang Kung commentary says, in arranging one's life properly, one should be as calm and flexible as a woman. Chapter 11 notes. Line. Non-being is what we use. Explanation. The true teacher realizes that there is nothing to teach. That's why he can teach anyone who wants to learn. The true lover realizes that there is no one to love. That's why he's available to anyone who needs him. The master realizes that there is nowhere to stand. That's why he can stand anywhere. Chapter 12 notes. Line. Colors blind the eye. Explanation. We need space in order to see, silence in order to hear, sleep in order to carry on with our wakefulness. If the senses are too cluttered with objects, they lose their acuteness and will eventually decay. Line. Desires wither the heart. Explanation. Once it has let go of desires, the heart naturally overflows with love, like David's cup in Psalm 23. Line. His inner vision. Explanation. There is no inside or outside for him. He reflects whatever appears without judgment, whether it is a flower or a heap of garbage, a criminal or a saint. Whatever happens is all right. He treats his own anger or grief just as he would treat an angry or grieving child, with compassion. Line. Open as the sky. Explanation. The sky holds sun, moon, stars, clouds, rain, snow, or pure azure. Because it doesn't care which of these appear, it has room for them all. Chapter 13 notes. Line. Keep your balance. Explanation. The trick is to go up or down the ladder with your feet on the ground. Bravo. Bravissimo. Line. See the world as yourself. Explanation. The outer mirrors the inner. Chapter 14 notes. Line. Look, and it can't be seen. Explanation. Another way of saying this. Look, and it's right before your eyes. Chapter 15 notes. Line. Till your mud settles. Explanation. Mud stands for concepts, judgments, desires, expectations, everything that obscures and narrows reality. The master's life is pure and placid, predictable like the seasons, obvious like the moon. When our mind, heart becomes transparent, the light of the Tao shines through. Line. The water is clear. Explanation. I asked my old teacher, Zen Master Shuang San, to comment on this verse, and he said, our mind is like a glass of clear water. If we put salt into the water, it becomes salt water. Sugar, it becomes sugar water. Shit, it becomes shit water. But originally, the water is clear. No thinking, no mind, no problem. Chapter 16 notes. Line. Empty your mind. Explanation. This doesn't mean suppress your thoughts, but step back from them. Insight into the Tao has nothing to do with the intellect and its abstractions. When we step out of self-consciousness, we step into the Tao. Lin Ching Sai said, the mind is originally empty, and only when it remains empty, without grasping or rejecting, can it respond to natural things, without prejudice. It should be like a river gorge with a swan flying overhead. The river has no desire to retain the swan, yet the swan's passage is traced by its shadow, without any omission. Another example. A mirror will reflect all things perfectly, whether they are beautiful or ugly. It never refuses to show a thing, nor does it retain the thing after it is gone. The mind should be as open as this. Does this sound anti-intellectual? But listen to Einstein. The scientist's religious feeling takes the form of a rapturous amazement at the harmony of natural law, which reveals an intelligence of such superiority that, in comparison with it, all the systematic thinking of human beings is an utterly insignificant reflection. This feeling is the guiding principle of his life and work. Ow. Sorry. Chapter 17 notes. One of several chapters that are relevant to child rearing as to government. Line. The master doesn't talk, he acts. Explanation. His words are in perfect harmony with his actions. He is always genuine. Chapter 18 notes. Line. The great Tao. Explanation. Jayata said to Vasubandhu, if you have nothing to ask for in your mind, that state of mind is called the Tao. Line. Goodness and piety appear. Explanation. When the Tao is forgotten, people act according to rules, not from the heart. This goodness is as insecure as Job's, and can be as self-satisfied as little Jack Horner's. Whereas a good father has no intention of being good, he just acts naturally. Chapter 19 notes. Line. Throw away holiness and wisdom. Explanation. When some folks are called saints, other folks think of themselves as sinners. When one fellow is called wise, others imagine that there is something they need to know. The master doesn't have these categories. For her, no one is wise or holy. Thus, in her presence, everyone feels at home. Chapter 20 notes. Line. Yes and no. Explanation. Chow Chow asked Nonch, what is the Tao? He said, everyday mind is the Tao. Chow said, how can I approach it? Non said, the more you try to approach it, the farther away you'll be. But if I don't get close, how can I understand it? The master said, it is not a question of understanding or not understanding. Understanding is delusion. Not understanding is indifference. But when you reach the unattainable Tao, it is like pure space, limitless and serene. Where is there room in it for yes or no? Line. I alone don't care. Explanation. If good happens, good. If bad happens, good. Line. I am like an idiot. Explanation. First you erase the blackboard, then you can write something new. Line. I am different from ordinary people. Explanation. I am more ordinary. When I am hungry, I eat. When I am tired, I sleep. That's all, Pai Ching said. After enlightenment, one is still the same as one was before. One is simply free from unreality and delusion. The ordinary person's mind is the same as the sage's, because original mind is perfect and complete in itself. After you have had this recognition, please don't lose it. Chapter 21 notes. Line. Before time and space. Explanation. Philo said, today means boundless and inexhaustible eternity. Months and years, all periods of time are concepts of men, who gauge everything by number. But the true name of eternity is today. Chapter 22 notes. Line. If you want to become whole, explanation, unless you accept yourself, you can't let go of yourself. Line. Because he doesn't know who he is. Explanation. From the standpoint of personality, he knows very well who he is. That is what allows him to use his personality for people's benefit, rather than be used by it. But from the standpoint of his true self, there is nowhere to stand and no self to know. He doesn't know. He just is. Line. Only in being lived by the Tao. Explanation. This is what Paul of Tarsus meant by not I, but Christ in me. Or, in a more light-hearted vein, a little boy who, when his mother got annoyed and said, stop sneezing, answered, I am not sneezing, it's sneezing me. Chapter 23 notes. Line. Trust your natural responses. Explanation. Trust the intelligence of the body. Chapter 24 notes. Line. Power over others. Explanation. The other is the self. When we understand this, we are able to use power wisely. Chapter 25 notes. Line. Mother of the universe. Explanation. As chapter 51 says, the Tao gives birth to all beings, nourishes them, maintains them, cares for them, comforts them, protects them, takes them back to itself. Line. These are the four great powers. Explanation. Ho hum. Chapter 26 notes. Line. Without leaving home. Explanation. She never loses touch with who she really is. In the midst of joy or anger or sorrow, she remains imperturbable. Chapter 27 notes. This is one of the most important chapters in the Tao Te Ching. In the first stanza, I have been very free here because the central point, openness to reality, open-heartedness, needs to be made as clearly as possible. The original text reads, a good walker leaves no traces or tracks. A good speaker makes no slips or errors. A good calculator needs no counting sticks or tallies. A good locksmith uses no bolts or keys, yet no one can open. A good binder uses no ropes or cords, yet no one can loosen. Line. Available to all people. Explanation. Because he is not attached to his own ideas. Line. You will get lost. Explanation. In moral judgments, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is the tree of death. Chapter 28 notes. Line. Know the male, I yet keep to the female. Explanation. Keeping to the receptive allows the creative to arise. Actually, the creative and the receptive are complementary sides of the same process. Chapter 29 notes. Line. Do you want to improve the world? Explanation. Ramanand Marshari said, wanting to reform the world without discovering one's true self is like trying to cover the world with leather to avoid the pain of walking on stones and thorns. It is much simpler to wear shoes. Line. It can't be improved. Explanation. This is the Sabbath mind, as if the first chapter of Genesis, when God, from a state of perfect response, looks at the world and says, behold, it is very good. Actually, this, it can't be improved, is the greatest possible improvement. Compare chapter 35. She perceives the universal harmony, even amid great pain, because she has found peace in her heart. Chapter 30 notes. Line. Doesn't try to force issues. Explanation. He lets the issues resolve themselves. Line. Out of control. Explanation. Out of the control of his own tiny, personal, conscious self. Chapter 31 notes. Line. Peace is his highest value. Explanation. Peace means wholeness. Chapter 32. Line. Smaller than an electron. Explanation. Neither small nor large, neither here nor there, neither past nor future nor present. Also, as long as we're discussing this, all of the above. Chapter 33 notes. Line. True wisdom. Explanation. When I know myself, I know others. When I master myself, I don't need to master others. Chapter 34 notes. Line. It doesn't create them. Explanation. It is more like a mother than like an artisan, giving birth rather than making. It acts without any conscious plan or purpose. God doesn't say, let there be light. The light simply is, and is God. Chapter 35 notes. Line. Peace in her heart. Explanation. She is centered in the peace, thus she can give herself fully to the pain. Line. Without flavor. Explanation. Zen Master Sing San's comments. The great way has no gate. Clear water has no taste. The tongue has no bone. In complete stillness, a stone girl is dancing. Chapter 36 notes. Line. If you want to shrink something, explanation. For example, defects in your character. When suppressed or ignored, they continue. But when allowed to be present in your awareness, they eventually wither away. Or, as Blake said from a slightly different perspective, the road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom. Chapter 37 notes, line. If powerful men and women could center themselves in it, explanation, they can. Chapter 38 notes, line. The master does nothing, explanation. He has no goal in mind, doesn't think that he is doing anything. He's just along for the ride, line. Yet he leaves nothing undone, explanation. No expectations, no regrets, no residue, line. When the Tao is lost, explanation. You can never lose the Tao, but you can find it, line. Therefore the master concerns himself with the depths and not the surface, explanation. In the depths there is no distinction between depths and surface. Fruit is autumn, flowers in spring. He enjoys the flowers as he enjoys the fruit. Chapter 39 notes, line. Lets himself be shaped by the Tao, explanation. As a piece of marble lets itself be shaped by the sculptor so that the statue inside can be revealed, hammer and chisel are necessary agents. Ouch. Chapter 40 notes, line. Being is born of non-being, explanation. Non-being means beyond the categories of being and non-being. Chapter 41 notes, line. The greatest love seems indifferent, explanation. Because it has no preferences. A good father loves all his children equally, whether they turn out to be thieves or carpenters or messiahs. As Jesus of Nazareth said, love your enemies. Treat them with generosity and compassion, so that you may be children of your Father in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends his rain on the just and on the unjust. Chapter 42 notes, line. The Tao gives birth to one, explanation. When it is called one, it is no longer the Tao. When it is called the Tao, it is no longer the Tao. Line. One gives birth to two, explanation. Oi! Line. Two gives birth to three, explanation. Where will it end? Line. Three gives birth to all things, explanation. I knew it! Now once more from the top, with feeling. One gives birth to two. Oi! Two gives birth to three. Where will it end? Three gives birth to all things. I knew it! Now once more from the top, with feeling. Line. All things have their backs to the female, etc. Explanation. Literally, the 10,000 things carry at their backs the yin and embrace in front the yang. Through the blending of the energy, chi, of these two things, they achieve harmony. The last stanza of chapter 42. I have improvised here. The text reads, people hate to be orphans, widowers, starvelings. Yet kings and princes take these names as their titles. Therefore, sometimes you gain by losing. Sometimes you lose by gaining. What others have taught, I teach also. The violent will not die a natural death. I will make this the father of my teachings. Chapter 43 notes, line. Gentlest, hardest, explanation. Examples. Water and rock, love and hostility. Gentlest, hardest. Chapter 44 notes, line. Fame or integrity, explanation. But why be caught in these dichotomies? Once he has surrendered to the Tao, the master accepts whatever comes to him. If fame comes, he uses it with integrity. If money comes, he uses it as pure energy. Success and failure are equally irrelevant to him because his heart rests in the Tao. fame or integrity. Chapter 45 notes. Line. True perfection. Explanation. A cracked coffee cup. The sound of traffic outside your window. Line. True fullness. Explanation. Attention, for example. Chapter 46 notes. Line. Whoever can see through all fear. Explanation. This is the only real defense. President Roosevelt said, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself." I would say, not even that. Chapter 47 notes. Line. The more you know. Explanation. The more you know without knowing yourself. Chapter 48 notes. Line. Every day something is dropped. Explanation. Gratefully. Line. True mastery can be gained. Explanation. Actually, it can't be gained. True mastery is letting things take their course. Chapter 49 notes. Line. The master has no mind of her own. Explanation. She has a strong will and a strong character, but she is permeable, and her mind is so subtle that, in comparison with the rigid thought and desire structures of other people, it seems to be pure space. Line. She also trusts people who aren't trustworthy. Explanation. Like a parent whose child has broken a rule. Of course, if a parent is genuine, the child will be genuine too. Chapter 50 notes. There are a number of passages in the Tao Te Ching where a much narrower consciousness is at work than in the rest of the book. These passages may be interpolations. Several show a concern with immorality, as the latter, magical Taoism, did. Or perhaps the old fellow had indigestion on the days he wrote them. But since my job was to recreate the essential mind of Lao-Tzu, I could not, in good conscience, include them in this version. What I have done instead is to make improvisations on the passage's theme, always taking care to remain within the consciousness and language of the main body of the text. For those who are curious, I have included literal translations in these notes. The text here reads, "Coming in is life, going out is death. 3 in 10 are companions of life, 3 in 10 are companions of death, and 3 in 10 are moving from life to the place of death. Why is this? Because they live life too intensely. I have heard that he who knows how to preserve his life meets neither rhinoceros nor tiger when he travels by land, and is untouched by the sword when he enters a battle. The rhinoceros finds no place in him to drive its horn. The tiger finds no place in him to sink its claws. The soldier finds no place in him to thrust his sword. Why is this? Because in him there is no place of death." Line. He has nothing left. Explanation. Zen Master San's comment. Coming in empty-handed, going out empty-handed. What is your original face? The moon is shining everywhere. Chapter 51 note. Line. Spontaneously honors the Tao. Honoring the Tao, explanation. Honoring the Tao means respecting the way things are. There is a wonderful Japanese story, adapted here from Zenki Roshi's A Flower Does Not Talk, which portrays this attitude. 150 years ago, there lived a woman named Sono, whose devotion and purity of heart were respected far and wide. One day, a fellow Buddhist, having made a long trip to see her, asked, "What can I do to put my heart at rest?" She said, "Every morning and every evening, and whenever anything happens to you, keep on saying, 'Thanks for everything. I have no complaint whatsoever.'" The man did as he was instructed for a whole year, but his heart was still not at peace. He returned to Sono, crestfallen. "I've said your prayer over and over, and yet nothing in my life has changed. I'm still the same selfish person as before. What should I do now?" Sono immediately said, Thanks for everything. I have no complaint whatsoever. On hearing these words, the man was able to open his spiritual eye and returned home with great joy. Chapter 52 notes. Line. Trace back the manifestations. Explanation. Where do you come from? Chapter 53 notes. Line. The great way is easy. Explanation. Zen master Ching said, the great way is not difficult if you don't cling to good and bad. Just let go of your preferences and everything will be perfectly clear. Chapter 54 notes. Line. Genuine. Explanation. The mark of a genuine person is straightforwardness. He has nothing to hide, nothing to defend. Chapter 55 notes. Line. Like a newborn child. Explanation. Lao-Tzu said, the infant cries all day long without straining its throat. It clenches its fist all day long without cramping its hand. It stares all day long without weakening its eyes. Free from all worries, unaware of itself, it acts without thinking. Doesn't know why things happen. Doesn't need to know. Line. The master's power is like this. Explanation. I have improvised here. The text reads, to know harmony is to know the eternal. To know the eternal is to have insight. To improve upon life is ominous. To control the chi by the mind is aggressiveness. When they are too aggressive, things decay. This is non-Tao. Non-Tao soon ends. Chapter 56 notes. Line. Those who know don't talk. Explanation. They don't talk for the sake of talking, or to prove something, or to display themselves. They talk only if it's appropriate, and if they feel like talking. Line. Those who talk don't know. Explanation. This is ignorance, not the openness of not knowing. Chapter 57 notes. Line. The world will govern itself. Explanation. Just as nature regulates itself without any need of our bright ideas. Chapter 58 notes. Second stanza. I have improvised here. The text reads, prosperity rests on disaster. Disaster is hidden in prosperity. Who knows the line that separates them? The normal becomes the perverted. The good becomes the monstrous. People have long been confused about this. Chapter 59 notes. I have improvised here. The text reads, in governing people and serving heaven, nothing is better than moderation. Only he who is moderate can prepare in advance. He who prepares in advance accumulates a reserve of tea, virtue, or power. The Tao as it informs things and acts in the world. He who accumulates a reserve of tea overcomes all obstacles. He who overcomes all obstacles has no limits. He who has no limits can possess a country. He who possesses the mother of a country can keep it for a long time. This is called having deep roots and a strong stem, long life and enduring vision. Chapter 60 notes. Line. Step out of its way. Explanation. It will be like a sword cutting the air. No harm. Chapter 61 notes. I have improvised here. The text reads, a large country is like the lower part of a river. It is the meeting point of the universe, the female of the universe. The female, by tranquility, conquers the male. By tranquility, she takes the lower position. Therefore, a large country, by placing itself in a lower position, can conquer a small country. A small country, by being in a lower position, can conquer a large country. Therefore, the one conquers by placing itself lower. The other conquers by being naturally lower. A large country wants nothing more than to gather people and nourish them. A small country wants nothing more than to enter and serve the people. Since both get what they want, The large country should take the lower position. Chapter 62 notes. Line. The Tao is the center of the universe. Explanation. The center is everywhere. Line. The good man's treasure. Explanation. It is like the magic purse. He can spend it freely, and there is always more. Line. The bad man's refuge. Explanation. It doesn't judge him. Thus, he can step outside his idea of himself. There is always another chance. Line. No one can achieve it. Explanation. Because there is no it. Line. Offer instead to teach him about the Tao. Explanation. Better yet, don't offer. The master simply responds to circumstances in the appropriate way. If the president or the pope or a border guard has a question, he will be glad to answer it. Otherwise, he minds his business and leaves everything to the Tao. Chapter 63 notes. Line. When she runs into a difficulty. Explanation. A difficulty is like a letter with her address on it. Chapter 64 notes. Line. He cares about nothing but the Tao. Explanation. Which is not to say that he doesn't love his wife, children, friends, country, planet, but he sees them in the proper perspective of eternity. And since he and his wife love the Tao even more than they love each other, their marriage is radiant with love. This is the meaning of the biblical verse. You shall love that unnameable your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. Chapter 65 notes. Line. Kindly taught them to not know. Explanation. The ancient masters taught them the supreme value of don't know mind, which is forever fresh, open, and fertile with possibilities. Another name for it is beginner's mind. Chapter 66 notes. Line. The master is above the people. Explanation. Not that she feels superior, but that looking from a higher vantage point, she can see more. Line. The whole world is grateful to her. Explanation. Even those who think they are ungrateful. Line. No one can compete with her. Explanation. She sees everyone as her equal. Chapter 67 notes. Second stanza. I have improvised here. The text reads, I have 3 treasures which I preserve and treasure. The first is compassion. The second is frugality. The third is daring not to be first in the world. Whoever has compassion can be brave. Whoever has frugality can be generous. Whoever dares not to be first in the world can become the leader of the world. But to be brave without compassion, generous without frugality, prominent without humility, this is fatal. Whoever shows compassion in battle will conquer. Whoever shows compassion in defense will stand firm. Heaven helps and protects those with compassion. Chapter 68 notes. I have improvised here. The text reads, A skillful officer isn't warlike. A skillful fighter isn't violent. A skillful conqueror isn't competitive. A skillful employer places himself below others. This is called the T of not competing. This is called the power to use men's abilities. This is called complying with heaven. Since ancient times, it has been the best way. Chapter 69 notes. Line. Underestimating your enemy. Explanation. Even thinking of him as an enemy is dangerous. If you need a word, use opponent. May the best man, as they say, win. Chapter 70 notes. Line. Easy to put into practice. Explanation. Grasses and trees have no trouble with it. Animals are perfect disciples. Line. Look inside your heart. Explanation. And keep looking. Keep listening, too, until the sights and the sounds disappear by themselves. Chapter 71 notes. Line. First realize that you are sick. Explanation. Novalis said, We are close to waking up when we dream that we are dreaming. Chapter 72 notes. Line. Therefore, the master steps back. Explanation. He doesn't act as guru or messiah because he doesn't want to keep people dependent on him, and thus spiritually immature. When people start to treat him like a holy man, he nips their adoration in the bud and points them to their inner messiah. Line. People will have nothing to learn. Explanation. They just need to unlearn. Chapter 73 notes. Line. The Tao is always at ease. Explanation. At ease with herself. The master puts everyone else at ease. Chapter 74 notes. Line. Trying to control the future. Explanation. Thinking that you know what is good or bad, what is advantageous or harmful. The Lao-Tzu tells a story about this. A poor farmer's horse ran off into the country of the barbarians. All his neighbors offered their condolences, but his father said, "How do you know that this isn't good fortune?" After a few months, the horse returned with a barbarian horse of excellent stock. All his neighbors offered their congratulations, but his father said, "How do you know that this isn't a disaster?" The two horses bred, and the family became rich in fine horses. The farmer's son spent much of his time riding them. One day he fell off and broke his hip bone. All his neighbors offered the farmer their condolences, but his father said, "How do you know that this isn't good fortune?" Another year passed, and the barbarians invaded the frontier. All the able-bodied young men were conscripted, and 9/10 of them died in the war. Thus, good fortune can be disaster and vice versa. Who can tell how events will be transformed? Chapter 75 notes. Line. Leave them alone. Explanation. Offer them the gift of not being dependent on you. Chapter 76 notes. Line. Disciple of life. Explanation. The less rigid, the readier for life or death. Chapter 77 notes. Line. And doesn't think that she is better. Explanation. She is simply more transparent. Chapter 78 notes. Line. He is people's greatest help. Explanation. The greatest help is wholeheartedly trusting people to resolve their own problems. A true philanthropist, like a good parent, brings people to the point where only they can help themselves. Line. True words seem paradoxical. Explanation. Only when the mind is cluttered with untruth. Chapter 79 notes. Line. If you blame someone else. Explanation. Confucius said, "In the archer there is a resemblance to the mature person. When he misses the mark, he turns and seeks the reason for his failure in himself." Chapter 80 notes. Line. Without ever having gone to see it. Explanation. Not that they are lacking in appropriate curiosity, but they have their priorities straight. Chapter 81 notes. Line. The master has no possessions. Explanation. These no possessions may include a house, a car, a computer, a room full of books, and an electric toothbrush. Line. The more he does for others, the happier he is. Explanation. Because he is doing it for himself. Line. The more he gives to others, the wealthier he is. Explanation. The less he holds on to, the more he can give himself to others. When he can give himself completely, his wealth is infinite. And that is it, guys. Thank you very much for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed it. It's really hot in here and I'm wearing a hoodie and I didn't take a drink of water that whole entire time, and I feel all right about that. So thank you guys and have a great day. I love you. And truly thank you if you stayed and listened to everything and you hear these words that I'm saying right now. Like, for real, my heart goes out to you because I just kind of got a feeling to start reading these books and different things, for myself, but also for anyone who cares to know the way in different things. This is not at all like my singular belief, but it is a part of my belief, and my faith is everything to me. And for those of you who know me well enough to know that, I live on it. I walk on it. I try and be the best man that I can, and that's a matter of perspective. And I always welcome indifference to learn from, and my fellow brother and sister to guide me in the right way, in the right direction of life. And whatever the best thing we can do together is what we should do. And we need to save our country right now, and we need to come around something like together. We need to do this. We need to do this together, because this is insane. Like, everyone is so broken down and divided. It's sad, just sad. So let's remember who we are and have a common goal in mind and do good. We can do better, so much better, so much better. So thank you. I love you. Pray for you. Pray for me, my family. Thank my mom. Thank my sister. Thank you, Dad, my grandma. Like, there's so many people in my life who have done so much good to help me become the man I am, and help me avoid becoming a person I could have become in so many different ways that I don't want to be, would never want to be. And I learned that because of them and because of you guys. And thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.